5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
In the span of 41 years, 928 nuclear tests were conducted in Nevada and killed over 20,000 civilians without them knowing why. At a time when the US and USSR were racing to build more powerful weapons, nuclear testing commenced in southern Nevada. These tests came with grave consequences because they violated basic human rights. Government agencies neglected their responsibilities to adequately warn the public about the risks caused by radioactive fallout. As these dangerous substances drifted downwind from the explosion sites, they destroyed the health and safety of communities, causing long-term destruction and suffering that has lingered for generations. Government agencies like the Atomic Energy Commission knowingly misled the public into believing these tests would not harm citizens. Because of this, the Atomic Energy Commission failed to fulfill its responsibility, stripping their own people of basic rights to a safe environment and knowledge of the full truth. World War II, starting in 1939, was the beginning of fighting with nuclear weapons. The first atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan, was highly destructive and immensely powerful. About 80,000 people were instantly killed, and so many more suffered and died from radiation effects. The destructive power of these bombs made it clear that nuclear warfare was no longer only a possibility, but a reality with unimaginable consequences. Tensions between the USA and the USSR caused these countries to launch into the Cold War immediately after World War II. The Cold War was a race to create the most powerful and advanced atomic weapons. Since both countries had weapons that could destroy the entire other nation, the Cold War was a stalemate. Throughout the Cold War, the United States tested nuclear weapons. Although these tests were unsafe, the U.S. government thought that they were necessary to keep up with the development of nuclear testing around the world. These tests benefited the U.S. by providing them with first-hand information about nuclear weapons. The tests were part of a broader series of experiments whose purpose was to develop more effective weapons.
In 1946, the U.S. government established the Atomic Energy Commission to manage the country's nuclear capabilities and oversee the development of atomic weapons. In the early 1950s, the U.S. government claimed land in Nevada for testing. This land would become the Nevada test site, where numerous nuclear weapons were conducted over the next several decades. These tests, however, came with unintended consequences. To better understand nuclear bombs, the U.S. began testing them in 1951. The first official nuclear test in Nevada, known as Shaw-Able, was on January 27, 1951, about 75 miles northwest of Las Vegas. Over the next few years, a total of 928 nuclear tests were conducted.
The military asked the AEC if they could include soldiers in these tests to see how they would react. Military troops were placed at a barely safe distance from the explosions and then moved closer to the aftermath of the test. This was designed to simulate what might happen in a real nuclear warfare situation. Other purposes for the tests in Nevada were to test the effects of explosions on man-made buildings and mannequins resembling a typical family. The first one of these tests was called Annie. This test obliterated a standard home for this time in almost seconds and left hardly anything remaining. While all tests in Nevada helped the U.S. learn about nuclear power, they also had serious consequences for nearby communities.
The radioactive fallout from the explosions spread far from the test sites, affecting many people, animals, and the environment, especially states south of Nevada. Although the government assured the public that these tests were safe, many individuals suffered from illnesses, particularly various types of cancer. When the fallout blew in, many people were bewildered with the dusty ashes falling from the sky. Some kids thought it was snow and began touching it to their bare skin, and others may have even swallowed the toxic fallout while trying to catch a snowflake on their tongue.
Government officials from that time failed their responsibility to mention the long-term dangers of radiation exposure. Secret documents full of endless information on the atomic test and its capabilities were later found, proving that the government was aware of the dangers of nuclear tests to begin with. These documents show that the government was guilty of lying and hiding the truth from the public. Many people who were exposed to the fallout experienced chronic health issues for years. The government underestimated the risks of these tests, leaving many families to deal with the painful consequences of radiation long after the explosions.
The final nuclear test, codenamed Divider, was conducted in 1992, but the legacy of the atomic testing era continues to affect the lives of many individuals, particularly those known as Downwinders. For 41 years, the inhabitants living downwind from the Nevada test site were exposed to radioactive fallout from a total of 928 nuclear explosions. Radioactive fallout can have severe health impacts, including increased risks of cancer, respiratory diseases, and genetic mutations. These harmful effects have prompted numerous legal battles as affected individuals seek justice and compensation for their suffering. These cases reflect ongoing efforts by affected individuals to gain justice and compensation for the harmful effects of radiation exposure.
The first steps toward legal action and reparations for Downwinders came during the late 1970s when Senator Ted Kennedy sponsored a bill in 1979. The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, also known as RECA, would hold the United States liable for damages to certain individuals, to certain uranium miners, and certain sheep herds due to certain nuclear tests at the Nevada test site. Kennedy's bill was introduced in the 96th Congress after its fifth revision but did not receive a vote. 10 years later, on October 15, 1990, President George W. Bush signed RECA, offering different compensation levels to all who claimed to be Downwinders. However, only certain areas that were affected could file for compensation money, and only certain types of cancer counted as being a result of the nuclear tests. RECA expired on June 10, 2024, so the claims that were entered after that date weren't even considered to receive compensation money.
The government failed their responsibility to protect their people, and the Downwinders' human right to a safe environment was violated. When the government ensured the public of their safety, it was a lie meant to direct accusations away from the AEC. People stopped trusting the government since they had failed to take adequate measures to ensure safety. This event is still remembered because the lasting effects are still around us today.
The more you dig into it, the more it's just been this history of cover-up, of lies. They didn't want to admit it. And it's really hard to think that the government that you believed in, and we all grew up, in my era anyway, trusting the government and trusting doctors and trusting authority. It was really hard to believe that they knowingly let that happen to us, that essentially there was a nuclear war. It was undeclared, but to me, that whole arms race was a nuclear war because we killed our own, Russia killed its own, everywhere they tested, they killed their own. And it's very, very discouraging to think that your government will sacrifice you in the name of national security. It's hard to ever trust them again. And every time I hear from anyone in the government saying, trust us, it's like my detectors go off. It's like that Will Robinson character going, boop, 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 danger, Will Robinson, danger. I will never trust them again, never, never.